Hey guys, welcome to episode number 10 of Suits and Sports. And joining us today, we have Mr. Tarun Singh. Mr. Tarun Singh is currently a sports law faculty at Gujarat National Law University. And if you watched the first episode of Suits and Sports, you would have noticed he was also there. And he's a very good friend to us. He's always helping GSPR out. So, hi, Tarun sir, how are you doing today?
Absolutely fine, Ryan. How are you, Subhrajit? It's always a pleasure to see you. We talk, every day, but on an official platform, on a formal talk, it's great to see you here.
But I think Ryan forgot to mention another thing to you. Like the first person to come out with the concept of sports law, the education sector, as the subject of sports law. I still remember I was a law student myself, and I was in my fourth year. Yeah, I was in my fourth year. So first time came to know about the thing. Yeah, I was also a little fascinated towards this sports law thing. Then I came to know JLU started a sports law course. The first person to came out with this course was himself. He's sitting with us, and it was something in the year of 2016. So
whenever you and my counterparts mention about this, you're not the first one, by the way, who mentions this to me, that you've become the pioneer in sports law teaching in India. First of all, for our viewers, I'm not the pioneer. There are people who had started way before me. Secondly, it always hits me on, when you say all of this, it hits me on the age factor. You make me feel that I've become old and I've become a fossil, and I don't like it. And it's not you. All the good colleagues and counterparts that I have in the Indian sports law circuit, whether it's Deep Ray, who's going to be with you, I think, in the next episode. Rashi has already been there. All of Apurvi one day was telling me the same thing, that you've become a stud, and you've been a part of the sports law fraternity way before us. You're a senior. She used the word saying that you're a senior to us. So it feels like a fossil, and I don't like this. Let me just tell you.
No, we are just mentioning the part like who was the first one to take, because nowadays like many sports law factors are coming out, right? See, so you should take the thing, right? The initiative has been taken by someone, right? So you have taken certain initiative. I am taking certain initiatives. Like initiative should be taken. So I feel like not complaining to the things, but initiative should be taken. So back into that time, you are the one.
But I'll mention one thing, Subhajit, here. It's very interesting that you mentioned about initiatives, and because that's extremely important. But not because I work at Gujarat National Law University and I'm saying this, but I actually believe that when it comes to the university level teaching of sports law, I think GNLU, if I'm right and if I have read it correctly, I think was the first university in 2010 to start a center on sports law. So it was the first university level center that was created, if I'm not wrong. And I think that initiative was a huge thing. The then director of GNLU, Dr. Bimal Patel, and now the director of GNLU, Dr. Shanta Kumar, I think both of them have supported sports law in this decade from 2010 to 2021, more than a decade now. And that gives a lot of push, because when you are in that kind of environment where people are supporting you to take the subject forward, I think it inspires you. And because I've been a sports person all my life and I feel for sport, I think it gives you a huge push.
As you were in this field, like as you know, like recently I have been also in this field. Like I'm not saying that you are old, I am young. Okay, so don't take it like that. So I just want to ask you one thing. Nowadays I have seen, like I think Ryan has a
Ryan wants to show off his great dunks that he can do. Ryan, thank you for showing off. It's great. You can come back now.
So I was asking.
Yeah.
So I was just, I see. I have come to like many new factors, like many new people are trying to come up with sports law, right? And there is a little bit concerned people in sports law. Like sports law is very new subject. Also, people think like sports law means just go through the Indian Contract Act, or you can read the competition policy. You're done with the sports law. Sports law is a very small. Is no need. But now modern generation has a tendency to moving towards sports law, right? So according to me, which I feel is very vague thing to say that sports law is only competition policy and Indian Contract Act, right? So I just want to know what's your view on this, right? Like, because as you are you have studied sports law yourself, you have a master in sports law. I have also done a master in sports law. So that's the reason I want to know. What's your view?
Yeah, of course. You know what happens. in the Indian circuit, you very well articulated it, Subhrajit, that we've actually restricted ourselves to a couple of acts and couple of policies and couple of regulations that are there in the Indian context, and that is exactly where the problem is. Though this was something I learned from one of the sports lawyers of the country, that it's extremely important to know the domestic laws of the country before you get into and try to understand sports law. So the basics of Contract Act or the basic of competition law or the basics of human rights law, it's extremely important. Amrut Joshi told me this actually in one of our meetings, and he made a very valid point. But and again, one more problem that happens with the new generation, where I count myself in. Well, you guys can say whatever about me, but I am a young blood person. And what has happened in the new context is that we are bending towards international legislations, and the domestic legislation we don't have a lot of control over in terms of our readings and in terms of our research. So that balance, number one, has to be created. Number two is that understand, whatever happens in a law school or whatever happens in an education institution is a reflection of what is happening in the society. And there was an interview that I gave very recently to one of the student initiatives, and there I wrote this, that sports, unfortunately, till now, after 70 years of independence, and after sports becoming professional after the industrial revolution, still we, in the Indian context, I'm going to speak about, barring a few percentage of the population, we still think that sports is just entertainment and leisure, and that's why the seriousness towards it, it's absolutely not there. I remember when I think that I've been extremely lucky to be around people who supported sports, whether it was my family, whether it was my friends. I used to stay on campus in one of the campuses in Dehradun, so I was lucky that way. So I got that kind of exposure, and I understood that it's not only about leisure and entertainment, but still we believe that sports is only about entertainment, and that's why the seriousness towards it is not there at all. And as soon as that seriousness is going to come in, everything is going to change, and that seriousness can only come when people like you, or people who are already established in the circuit of sports law, come together and start telling people and making people aware about what the importance of sports is, whether it's culturally, whether it's commercially, and we have to play that role. And that's going to be, of course, that's going to take a lot of time, because you're talking about just changing the whole generation thought process, and that's going to take a lot of time. But that has to start now, because this is the best time to do it. So many leagues are coming in India. There are so many opportunities in the area of sports law, not in the area of sports law, but in the area of sports industry in general, whether it's management, whether it's on the playing side, whether it's on the coaching side. There are so many opportunities coming in, and so it's very important now to get that ball rolling and make sure that the tempo builds up from here. So that is what I want to say, that society, society has to give sports that kind of importance.
So another thing that is very important thing which I want to know from your view on this. See, nowadays I have seen many professors also coming forward, right? And they are coming forward to teaching sports law, or they are starting course of sports law. And when you are asking them from where you have, what is the material you are using to teach them sports law, already Ryan is smiling this way. In this slide, Ryan is already smiling. So I have seen they are telling me I am teaching sports law, but I am going through this book, I am reading that, and then I am giving the lecture. Then I'm asking some of the main phase, which is, we can say, the main questions of case laws, and we're asking them so what are you teaching? Have you taught them Bosman theory? Because Bosman, who have the degree of sports law, who have worked in the sports law field, they know what is Bosman, what is Makkah Medina case. So when I'm asking them, they were like, what is this? We never heard of these cases. What are those cases? But when I'm telling them, they were saying yeah, I am going to the book, I'm reading the book, then I'm giving lecture. So don't you think that there is certain point of lacking behind of knowledge, proper way of direction of knowledge, right? Because if that's the matter, reading a book and giving a lecture, and even you are saying sports law, I'm not taking, like, I am not being against of that. I am saying, like, because the future generation, the hand of future, the future generation is on your hand. And then you are saying, like, I know sports law is something a very vague thing to saying in front, like, I know sports law. See, doctor, like,
Yeah,
I'm
but
taking a,
there's one way of looking at it this way as well. There's something, I'll give a little bit of benefit of doubt to the teaching fraternity in India in this case, because sports law as a subject is, it's in its infancy in the country itself. There is no structure called sports law in India, and anybody who's trying to understand that structure can only do it through international legislations and books. And in India also, we have got a couple of 3-4 of them which have come in. But still, the research matter is extremely limited, and because of that limitation, and because of that, and that I will also say that the understanding is also an issue here, because you have to understand sports law in a very different perspective from various other laws, because sports law functions in a different zone in a number of issues. So because their training is not such when it comes to teaching sports law, I don't blame them. But of course, if you see international I think teaching pedagogy, and if you have an access to international teaching pedagogy, I think as an individual, I will always go there and try to see how they are teaching. So that self-learning process has to be there. But having said that, I will still say that people who have started now coming in the area of sports law to teach in the Indian circuit, and I'm talking about Indians who are teaching in India, because there are a number of people who are from, for example, Sean Starr, coming from Jindal, but originally from Australia. He teaches, and he's got a different kind of perspective because he's been trained in that way. The Australian sports law sector is extremely good. In India, you don't have that kind of vibrancy till now. It's growing and it's going to take a bit of time. What faculties should actually do in India, and it's not for sports law, for various other laws as well, and it happens in a lot of cases. I see GNLU faculties doing that in number of platforms, that there has to be a conceptual and practical mix when you teach. So it's important that you go to lawyers and practitioners who are working in the area of sports law and ask them that how the processes are working. Because at the end of the day, when you go to the student and teach them, they want to look at the practical aspect of it, because they think about job perspective and their internships. So that nexus has to be created. So this is something that Indian faculty members can do, that especially who are teaching in the area of sports law, that you go to these sports law firms and lawyers, take time from them and try understanding the practicalities of this. So it just depends on what kind of methodology that you want to use. I'm sorry.
This is why I gave to this question. Of course, if you take illustrations, there can be two type of doctor, right? One doctor is totally the practical as well as theory, and mom dad used to say there is another type of doctor who used to read the book. Then you will say, yeah, they will open the book and say, okay, this medicine. So obviously, people always choose a doctor who will be knowing that fact, right? He knows practical and theory. That is the reason.
Yeah, the practical aspect has to be there, because I'm telling this from a personal experience. When I initially started teaching sports law, I generally used to teach law students, and we used to be in the legal zone all the time. I got this opportunity to teach sports persons in Swarnim Gujarat Sports University, which is the sports university in Gujarat, and my perspective changed altogether, because athletes are looking for something different, and the way you have to talk to them about it has to be extremely different. So you have to know the practical problems that are there. You have to go to the lawyers who might have answers to those practical problems, and then you have to combine theory and that practicality together and give you give knowledge or awareness to the various stakeholders that are coming to you. So that perspective change has to be there.
Today I think Ryan is not having his time. So, but you just now mentioned about the thing which is athlete code, right? So yeah. See, though in our India, we have a question in the pyramid structure itself, the sports pyramid structure itself, governing policy. But I want to ask you one question. Do you think that like there's an academy, like SAI, Sports of India is academy, right? But you can stay, you can also study and regarding sports. So do you think like sports law should be a curriculum for 6 months, like even take for 6 months, a small period of time? All athletes should know the sports law, because at the end of the day, even there should be a little bit of legal perspective is there, which they need to be done with, right? Only your being a client of someone cannot help. So you also need to have a little bit knowledge of that. Don't you think that, see, I have seen in UK, in many clubs and all, they have that, even they give you a little bit knowledge to the athletes also, right? Even which level of club you are. Being a third division team also, they have a knowledge of sports. But coming to India, we don't have that knowledge. The athletes don't have that knowledge. So don't you think like this structure should be there in our India also, like knowing the little bit of the sport?
Absolutely, but but I'll tell you a major problem in India, and why I can't compare the Indian Indian athletes with the athletes coming from Europe or other Western nations. One of the biggest problems, Subhrajit and Ryan, there is that in India is that athletes generally come from a very humble background here. And when I say humble, I'm not only talking about economics here. I'm talking about their education level. There are athletes who haven't seen school. There are athletes who haven't gone to universities. They're fifth pass or sixth pass, and they've dedicated their life to sports. Look at the Indian cricket team, for example. There are a number of people who have just played, they have just studied till 10th standard or 8th standard or 6th standard or 12th standard, maybe in a few cases, apart from people like Anil Kumble and Javagal Srinath and Rahul Dravid, who did their engineering as well. But majority of athletes in this country come from a very humble education background. So putting them in that zone of understanding law, it's going to be a huge task. What one can do is, or what authorities and sports lawyers and law schools can do is that you simplify a few rights and concepts that the athletes should know. I'll give you a small example of what we have been doing in GNLU very recently. So I and one of my colleagues from GNLU, Ambika Batas, who is also doing a PhD in sports law from GNLU, are coming up with this, and we thank the government of Gujarat for the funding that came in, that we are coming with an athlete legal education program for the Gujarat athletes. And we have taken 4 or 5 concepts, one being sports contracts, for which I also thank Deep, who really helped us in understanding and simplifying basics of sports contracts. We're talking about corruption legislation that one should know of. We're talking about registration processes, so on and so forth. And we're coming up with this module where we have simplified the rules and regulations that one needs to follow as an athlete in India, rights and duties I'm talking about. And we're coming up with this module for them, and we're going to put this module in front of the Gujarat government so that, like this one in Gujarat Sports University is there, or you've got a number of state level associations, and we go there and start telling athletes about it. We are also trying to come up with a small legal aid center for the athletes. If an athlete needs something, a kind of legal aid for any of his or her legal issues that one is facing, they can come to the university. We'll have a pool of lawyers coming in who are going to help these athletes. And all of this is going to happen when you bring 2 things. Number one, you simplify the whole teaching and the understanding process. Number 2 is that you really have to come out of this whole zone of teaching and teaching people in English. In Gujarat, an athlete will not understand English, apart from people who play cricket or professional sports for that matter. Even the professional players, I can vouch on it that the number of players coming from places like Gujarat or the southern parts of the country, or from even up north, like I'm from Uttarakhand. I can tell you that any person coming from the hilly regions of Uttarakhand will not understand English. You have to, do 2 things. Number one, you get into the vernacular language that is spoken, or another aspect, for at least in the northern, part of this country, what one can do is that you start teaching in Hindi, which I did when I was in Swarnim Gujarat Sports University for one lecture. I know how tough it was because, you're out of the whole Hindi touch being in a professional circuit, but I know how pleasing it was when I finished it, because I could actually connect to the athletes. So this whole concept of just teaching in English, even to law students, I know a lot of law students who you can teach them in English, but if you come down to Hindi or any vernacular language that they understand, I'll speak for Hindi because that's the language that I speak. I think I connect with them and I can make them understand things in a better way. And of course, then you can go back to books and, start teaching them in that way. So we have to come out of this whole colonial system thinking that it's only English that, you have to go and you have to show off that I can speak in English, and only then people will get attracted to you. At least at the athlete level, I can tell you one thing, that's not the case at all. So simplify it for them, and that simplification can happen when you start putting things in the way athletes are going to understand. So that's what we're trying to do through this athlete legal education program project that we are into, and that's going to get finished by the end of June.
Wow. So thank you, son, giving that insight as in regard with the athlete program. I'm pretty sure it's going to help a lot of athletes, because I also, when I spoke to a few of them who play professional, they were also telling that he was telling that a lot of his friends get into a lot of legal trouble because, they don't have a lot of idea. So, and he was saying, when they sign a contract, they just go sign, they don't even look at what it is in terms of endorsements and stuff. I have a reasoning to give. So would it be fair on my end? Like, please tell me if I'm wrong. So, would it be right for me to tell that we should all consider sports law in India as a developing sport in India? So, like, we know how sports are, like, we have a few sports that are developing. So would it be fair to say that we treat sports law as a sport that is developing in India?
Oh, absolutely. And it is, because it's number one, one has to first of all, we have to understand when, Amrit Joshi spoke about understanding various laws. I think this is exactly what he meant, that sports law in India, and I think around the globe as well, it's an amalgamation of various laws, that how sports is going to function in a contractual aspect or in the labor issue aspect, or how labor laws are going to function in the sports domain. So it's extremely important to understand that amalgamation. And what you said right now, that sports law itself is a growing sport. It's absolutely correct. It's absolutely a growing sport, a sport that has a lot of potential, a sport which can be commercially viable for people who want to be a part of it. Because, look at the European circuit, and look at even the European teaching circuit when it comes to sports law, you're paid extremely, extremely well. And I'm sure Subhrajit can, back me up on that. Even in the American circuit, you see the same thing. So it's a sport that's going to be commercially, culturally, and I think commercial and culture are two things that I'm going to mention right now is going to be a huge thing for India. So we all have to just maintain this tempo and increase it whenever we get the opportunity.
So I think also as a law student,
heavy things we're talking about.
No, as a law student also, so like sometimes what we look at right now is there's a lot of people who are heading towards sports law. And if you look, okay, in terms of opportunities, it might not be too much. But if you look, considering the fact that as of now in India, at the top level, I'd say it's only cricket, football is slowly going. So is it good to have a belief that, sports like football is establishing, basketball is yet to establish, badminton, tennis, all the sports are yet to develop a top league in India. So is it a good idea for law students to consider, like, keep that in mind and still pursue a career in sports law?
Of course, look, and what you mentioned right now, Ryan, is correct, that sports majorly in India, I'm not talking about sports, I'm talking about sports apart from cricket and football that you mentioned, tennis to some aspect, and racket sports as well. Badminton is something that India is good at and has, I believe, that has some kind of process and system in place. Apart from that, let's talk about indigenous sport. India is known for the land of indigenous sport. Look at wrestling, look at hockey. What has actually happened to these sports? Wrestling, in between was coming up really, really well. Right now, I don't think so. It's in the same tempo. Hockey, forget about anything else. The most gold medals that has been won by India is in hockey. And now look what has happened. We can go to, and we can always say that it's because of the AstroTurf coming in and the rules of games changing, and that's why the Asian teams could not match the European teams. But let's just say one thing, that domestically also we didn't do a lot of things to promote it, and that promotion needs to be done. And when I say indigenous sports, there's a Netflix series that I was watching 3-4 weeks back, which is called Homegrown, and in that they've mentioned 8 I think it's called Homegrown only, and they've mentioned 8 sports in which wrestling is also there, and they've told a story of an Indian wrestler. And you should see in the European context and in the American context how indigenous sports are actually promoted. You've got major leagues coming in, and so much of money coming in for indigenous sport. There's a sport in Kyrgyzstan which is called Kok Baru, if that's the pronunciation. It's called Kok Baru. And what happens in that sport is that there is a team of 5 people riding a horse. It's kind of polo, but the only sad part in that sport is that there is no ball or stick. There is a dead goat in their hand, and they have to put that in a well kind of system, and they have to put that there. They've got a President's Cup. Pepsi comes and sponsors them for that. Can you imagine where people are taking indigenous sport? And what we are doing, and you look at sports like there's something called in the US, I think they play it in Austin. It's called roller skating, but that's not roller skating in general. they've got this made 4, 5 teams coming in together, and one has to score by passing, through all the other players from the other team, and you score points, and the other players can use, shoulder push. They can push you, they can, pin you down, not to let you pass. And it's a huge sport in Austin. So look how indigenous sports and people are coming out. In India also that happened actually. The Pro Kabaddi League was a huge thing. There was, I think, if I'm not wrong, there was something which came in arm wrestling as well, which did not really work in India. So you have to work and make sure that these indigenous sports also come. Yeah.
I thought, okay, yeah. So thank you so much in that regard, actually. Yeah, in regard with Kabaddi also, we had a Kabaddi World Cup also. I still remember we had United States also participating. So yeah, like you said, indigenous sports do have a different aspect. So like we thought we'll right now move a little more into just sports. So for those of you watching, Tarun sir is a diehard fan of football and especially Real Madrid. However, since the football club season is over, we are right now looking forward to the next segment in football, and that is, of course, the Europa League. The UEFA Euros. Man U fan, Europa League's not off.
You have to come out of the Europa League. Ryan, your team is lost. You have to come out of it. It's okay. Happens. I know it haunts you, but you have to come out of it.
Okay, yeah, it's okay. I will handle that. Okay, yes. So yes, we're going to be speaking a little bit on the upcoming UEFA Euros. So Tarun sir, what's your insight on that tournament? Who do you think? Who are you rooting for? And just a wild guess on who do you think is likely to win? A wild guess.
Look, for me, whether Sergio Ramos is there in the team or any of the Real Madrid players there in the team or not there in the team, I'm always going to root for Spain. I've been rooting for them for quite some time, and of course, this time they are missing superstars, if I want to put that in the right perspective. But when I look at the team is full of people who are coming from a winning locker room. Whether it's, if let's just take an example of David De Gea, though they've lost in the Europa League, but they've come, they were placed second. So they know they've been to a final. You've got Koke, who just won the La Liga. You've got a number of other players who won with PSG or any other club for that matter. And that makes a lot of difference, because of the reason that as soon as you come from a winning locker room, you come with a winning mind space. And that will help you in the Euros as well. And what I also believe is that as soon as you don't have a lot of superstars in the team and a fresh team comes in where, different people are going to come together, coming from different, playing different leagues from all over the world, and winning in those leagues or performing really well in that, and then they're coming together to play for the national team. That's going to work. I think that's going to work for Spain this time. And I'm looking forward for Spain to win the second team, if not Spain. The team I'm wearing the jersey of Portugal. It's always Real Madrid inside my head. It's going to be Portugal. Of course, you've got the best in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo. For me, he's the best in the world, but there are other players as well. I'm going to give a bit of credit to your team as well. You've got Bruno Fernandes there, who's going to play for Portugal as well. So thank you for that, Ryan. At least Manchester United is helping us on that front.
It's like you're just roasting Man United.
No, I'm not. I'm not roasting you. We were discussing it a few minutes back before we started this interview. I used to love watching Manchester United because they were the best at one point of time. It's disheartening to see what has happened to the team. Now, of course, it has become a little better. It's coming in that zone again, and I hope they just build it from there. But you can't be saying that you don't have Alex Ferguson, so you can't do it. And nobody has Alex Ferguson now, but they're still winning, right? You have to come out of that Alex Ferguson zone. And they will win. I'm sure they're going to come back.
It's more like Ryan says, like Neymar was not there. So that's the reason Brazil has lost the match by 7-1. Some of my friends was
I think Real Madrid is a huge example of a superstar going and still the team is performing well. Look at Real Madrid. Cristiano Ronaldo went, and the next player who really showed up is Karim Benzema, and he showed up in a way that now France has called him for the Euros. And that's what happens as soon as big names. Sometimes it actually is. It's good when big names leave a club or a team. It actually gives a lot of opportunities for people who actually have a lot of talent to express themselves. And I'm sure, just like in La Liga, how Karim Benzema has performed. If given an opportunity to play in the playing 11 for France, he's going to be extremely, extremely lethal because he's coming with that attitude, that scoring attitude.
I think
This is how Real Madrid players are. I just can't help it. We're just so good.
So, but that's the reason I think Belgium is also underrated, one of the best team I think in Europe.
Which one?
Belgium. They can be.
Oh, Belgium is a great. Belgium is very, very good. It's going to be again a huge, huge competition this time. And I actually want to see how Belgium is going to play this year. I think they've got a great lineup. I was just watching the lineups a few minutes back. I don't know who all are there in Belgium this time, but I'm sure they're going to do extremely, extremely good. Another team that I'm going to look forward to, which I always look forward to in the Euros, is going to be Croatia. They're very, very good. Croatia has got Luka Modric. And again, whenever I'll tell you the best part about Real Madrid is whenever you think of a team, the first player that comes to your mind is a Real Madrid player. That is what the best is all about.
But taking that context of Real Madrid, okay, so certainly one thing clicks in my mind. I think hopefully you remember back in when we were in our childhood days, when you were also a child. So we always said at that time, there was a team of Real Madrid that was Kaká, not Kaká,
yeah.
Sorry. No,
you had
Kaká.
Ronaldo and Beckham and everybody in the same team.
Remember that team also?
And the first match that we played with that team was against Atletico Madrid, and Cesc Fabregas scored 4 against. No, Valencia, and Valencia scored 4 against us. We were 4-0. That was the first time everybody said that they put the superstars together, but it's of no use.
But I remember that one. One side there was Zidane, Roberto Carlos, Beckham, and one side there is only one guy, and his name was Ronaldinho. And we know what was match result. He was just smiling, going, scoring, coming back.
Yeah, of course. And that happens. That's what I'm saying. As soon as you put too many superstars together, it is bound to crash because everybody wants to show their worth in the team. So it's always better that you look at Portugal in the last Euros. They had one player and that player was out, because of injury, had to go out in the finals, and look at the performance. Adair, a person you will never think of scoring at the club level or the national level, scored from a distance which you can't even think of. And it wasn't a huge boom shot that went in. He just placed it with a little bit of power, and France had no idea where the ball was going. And that is exactly what happens. If you have people who can express themselves, that's more important than having superstars in the team. And I'm sure, like, for example, Barcelona, the day Messi is going to leave Barcelona, I think Barcelona is just going to have a different picture altogether.
But as we are running from the time, so but in certain point of time, I also feel a little bit sad toward our new generation. People think only for Portugal or Germany, but they will never hurt them if they're saying, what is our Indian team? Blue Tigers. Ask Ryan how many Indian players he know.
Yeah.
Oh, I know quite a few.
Yes. So, Ryan and Ryan.
I will start.
Shoot.
Gurpreet Singh Sadhu, Sandesh Jhingan, Ashik Kurunian, then Rahul Beke.
He's killing you. Don't think that you come from Calcutta, so he does. Other people don't know Indian football. Subhrajit said that because he comes from a place where football is loved. The Indian football system is loved.
I'm also from Kerala, so it's good competition.
Yeah, of course. Kerala is a huge football-loving, state. Huge.
What is Ryan, tell me one thing. What is the rank? Do you know where are we standing now? What is our rank?
So we once did very good. I think our best a couple of years back was 90, and now we crossed 100. We've gone back again. 100 and something. I don't know. We dropped.
Subhrajit, you have to stop taking his viva, and Ryan, you have to stop answering like a student in a viva that you will hit around the bush but not at the point. It's okay. It's okay. So, when you mentioned about Indian football, actually, I want to give a lot of credit to the university where I studied, which was Jamia, because our sports director at that point of time in Jamia was SS Hakim. I'm not very sure if you have heard this name before. SS Hakim is the son of Rahim Saab, who's been considered as one of the best coach that India has ever produced. There's a movie also coming on him very soon, and he was friends with people like Pele and all. And there's a myth, I'm not very sure if it's true, that the first person actually to talk about 4-3-3 as a formation was Rahim Saab from India, and then it went to the South American nations.
It's not a myth.
It's true also. Yeah, it's true. It's actually true. That's what I'm saying. I've heard this. It's not actually a myth. It's something I've heard. He was the first person actually to bring in 4-3-3 formation in the world. And I'm glad that I played under his son, who was our advisor to Jamia Sports, and great opportunity. Wow. It shaped me. Brilliant days.
So before we got the signing off, before we go for the signing off, so I just want to know what's your quotation for our next generation lawyers who are trying to go for a sports
law? If you want to, I don't know if I can put that in a quote, but one word that I will say, which I now tell myself after being in this system for good 4.5, 5 years: work hard. And there is no substitute to it. You can be extremely intelligent, a very sharp person, but if you don't have that, that hardworking nature in you, it's not going to come very easy. You have to work hard. You have to first of all tell yourself that you don't know things. There was a problem with me when I started teaching, and especially sports law, because I popped up in the scene very quickly because I thank the university where I was from, and at that point of time, in that 1.5 years of phase, there was nobody academically who was, teaching sports law at various universities. So inside my head, I started thinking that I know a lot of things which people don't know, and that is the biggest mistake that one can make. If you tell yourself that I know everything, it's a good night. So it's better that you tell yourself every day that I know this, and now I have to build it up, and I have to know every other thing possible. And a great line which I read, it's actually a song line if I'm not wrong, and it's by Limskit, and he said, life is a lesson, you learn it when you're through. So when you're through, then you learn every bit that every bit that you experienced in life. So and it's absolutely okay to not know things. You don't have to know everything. As a teacher, if I do, there's a huge, there's a lot of debate about the fact that teachers should know everything. I think Subhrajit will back me up again on this, that it's expected out of us that we should know everything. To all the teachers or people who want to be teachers, it's absolutely fine to not know things. It's a human trait to not know things. The good part is that then you should, strive to learn it if you have the time and if you have the patience to do it. But keep working hard.
Rightly said. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Brilliant. This was too much fun. I think we should do it often. And to all the viewers who's going to see, who are going to check out this video, GSPR is, and I'm not saying because I'm a part of GSPR, and this is just me, somebody who observes GSPR from a distance. They're doing extremely good work. Follow them, subscribe to their channel, and be with them in this whole process of developing sports law. And Subhrajit and Ryan just send me my check for advertising you. You know my GPay account.
Sir, you stole my concluding line, sir. I don't know what to say.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Please, I'm so sorry. Please, Ryan, again. Forget about what I said.
I'm just kidding, sir. So once again, on behalf of GSPR, thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience and giving in your thoughts. I'm pretty sure a lot of us are going to take it into consideration, and it will help us in the future. Subhrajit, sir, you can say goodbye to.
I have already mentioned my comments. He's you can say he's the father. I think he's the father of the modern sports law.
Just shut the window right now. Just shut the window.
So, okay, thank you for your time, because you are very busy schedule. I know that, and you came. It's been an honor with you. So
thank you very much. Ryan, it was a pleasure. Thank you. You guys are doing great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.